Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Mrinmoy Pramanik. I teach comparative Indian language and literature at the University of Calcutta. Today we will discuss a module from the paper Indian Aesthetics, and the module is on folk and tribal aesthetics. The very modern understanding of literature confined the literature within the boundary of written literary culture. The British invasion to India and their civilizing mission tried to establish the notion of literature or the notion of literary as it should be primarily written. If we see the history of medieval Indian literature, we can understand that several cultural forms were engaged with the literary productions. There was no as such strict definition of literature, especially in the Bhasha culture and the other Adivasi cultures. Bhasha had observed the sources of the written text were adapted from oral culture and other existing great literature written in Sanskrit, Pali, Prakrit, etc. The written manuscripts used to be performed and used to be survived in public life through oral or performative culture. Interestingly, it had its own life in manuscript culture too. This is because of very European notion that in modern times the literature had divided into two subcategories as written and oral or folk. And because of that, written literature is only considered as literature, and these literary productions are historicized. Gradually folk became marginal and other category of human excellence. Sometimes it is considered as the creation of the low intellect, a marginal art practice. Tribal cultural practices always had been observed and other by the dominating Aryan culture. But in Indian history, tribal and other non-tribal communities were not alienated from each other. They had their cultural communication. Modern India carries the ancestry of both the non-tribal and the tribal. The so-called non-tribal in modern India carries genes of the tribal and non-tribal too. And naturally, we can observe different Indian languages, art, and other creative expressions find their root in both the non-tribal and tribal roots. But this is a part of the reality. There is huge population in India comprising large varieties of the races popularly known as tribal or Adivasi. Varieties of tribal art and culture is to be understood from the point of view of aesthetic concept to understand the greater literary and cultural epistemology of India. This module is intended to conceptualize this. Now, let us talk about folk and tribal arts in Indian context. India had always been known as the land that portrayed cultural and traditional vibrancy through its conventional arts and crafts. The 35 states and the union territories sprawled across the country have their own distinct cultural and traditional identities and are displayed through various forms of art prevalent there. Every region in India has its own style and pattern of art, which is known as folk art. Other than folk art, there is yet another form of traditional art practiced by several tribes or rural population, which is classified as tribal art. The folk and tribal arts of India are very ethnic and simple, and yet colorful and vibrant enough to speak volumes about the country's rich heritage. Folk art in India apparently has a great potential in the international market because of its traditional aesthetic sensibility and authenticity. The rural folk paintings of India bear distinctive colorful designs which are treated with religious and mystical motifs. Some of the most famous folk paintings of India are the Madhubani paintings of Bihar, Patachitra paintings from the state of Odisha and West Bengal, the Nirmal paintings of Andhra Pradesh, and other such folk art forms. Folk art is, however, not restricted only to paintings but also stretches to other art forms such as pottery, home decorations, ornaments, cloth making, and so on. The potteries of some of the regions of India are quite popular among foreign tourists because of their ethnic and traditional beauty. The thing is that when we are talking about folk and tribal art, we are talking about the paintings, we are talking about the pottery, the other sculptural products, not specifically we are talking about literature or the any specific folk narrative, because the very notion of literature is European, that it should be related or associated with written culture. In Sanskrit, we have equivalent of literature as Sahitya. And that Sahitya doesn't mean that the product should be or must be written only. That Sahitya means the association. In Sanskrit, Sahitatta, association. And if we observe the other tribal tradition, we can find that they do not have any particular product known as literature. I can take example of few tribal communities and their product that those products are products have multi meanings, multiple identities, like the Warli painting. When the Warli community used to paint on the walls of their home or on the some other material, they actually paint about their living, their life, their society, their daily life, and their livelihood. So this painting is actually the narrative of their life, and through this painting we can have history of the community. If we see the any other communities, then we can observe that painting, music, or oral tradition are simultaneously art forms, literature, and history through the communities. So while we are talking about the tribal aesthetics or we are talking about folk aesthetics, we have to analyze different cultural products produced by different marginal communities and the Adivasi communities to understand the aesthetics of the tribal and folk. And one thing also noteworthy here, that when we are talking about folk and tribal aesthetics, these concepts are not homogeneous. There are lots of complexities. There are different kind of folk products, and these products are different in nature from one place to another, from one language to another. So when we are talking about folk aesthetic or tribal aesthetic, we are not mentioning about the monolithic culture. It is multifaceted, it has multi-meaning, it has varieties, and it has huge complexities. And in modern era, in contemporary time, in the time of market economy or global economy, few folk and tribal art forms are adapted and circulated or sold in the market, and those are branded as the tribal product, the folk product of so and so area. And these are actually reproduced again and again through the modern apparatus. So, what commonly we, the general reader, are getting as tribal art or folk art are actually the imitation of the tribal art and the folk art. So, while we are talking about aesthetics based on such readings, we are talking about the aesthetics of the imitation of folk art and tribal art. So these things we have to keep in mind while we are talking about or reading about folk and tribal aesthetics. Now let us concentrate on the difficulties to find or to understand the folk and tribal aesthetics. Folk and tribal life have been changed so quickly, and the changes are so visible in different parts of the world. One major difference between a general aesthetic theory of literature and tribal and folk aesthetic is, whereas in general or common understanding of literary aesthetic, we use it as tool to understand the literature better, find the meaning of the text, and we find the representation of life in it. But the tribal and folk aesthetics is more real in sense. It does not come from the cultural practice which is representation of life, but the life itself. Tribal and folk cultural products are so integral and unavoidable with the life of the communities from where the aesthetic thoughts is or aesthetic thoughts are emerged. The literary practice needs a unique, uncommon, creative talent, and therefore comes the question of aesthetic in reading a particular text written by a poet or writer of high merit. One has to be trained in the culture of writing. Writing is not something which is automatically given with the birth, but in other side, the folk and tribal art forms and practices are so integral with the life of the people of the community that they do not have they have no need of having formal institutional education to practice the tribal or folk art forms, or one do not have to learn it from the society as such. Tribal and folk arts are actually inherited by the people of different such communities. So tribal and folk arts and cultural products are the stories of life, annals of history, symbols of identity to the people of different communities. They have no need to earn it, but they are always with it. The growing challenges faced by different folk and tribal cultures are destroying the originality and indigeneity of the cultural products and practices of the communities. Moreover, there are problems regarding the adaptation of folk and tribal art forms in mainstream market and the representation of those. Quite often, this representation tries to homogenize the tribal and folk contents, as I mentioned earlier. Such representation also promotes a particular folk and cultural element as cultural products of large heterogeneous culture of the folk and the tribal communities of the territory. As for example, wherever tribal association is needed, it is worldly paintings which have been represented as the tribal art form of India. Mainstream culture is so ignorant about the tribal and folk culture that it has tendency to occupy, to represent the tribal and folk cultural elements as monolithic, and it did by ignoring the plurality of cultural forms and voices of the tribal and folks. What is folk and tribal art? Folk art encompasses art produced from an indigenous culture by peasants or other laboring tradespeople. It is primarily utilitarian and decorative rather than purely aesthetic. Folk art is characterized by a naive style in which traditional rules of proportion and perspective are not employed. Folk and tribal art is closely related terms to outsider art, self-taught art, and naive art. A key distinction between folk and outsider art is that folk art typically embodies traditional forms and social values, where outsider art stands in some marginal relationship to society's mainstream. Since the last 4 decades or so, folk and tribal art of India has evolved to not only include traditional aesthetics but also encompass contemporary visuals and attitudes, making the individual artist the center of their creation and vision. The focus is on individual artists to give their art a new voice and lead it to the new phase of global art and help in the revival of these art forms. It is said in the Deccan Footprints website. Now let us talk about folk and tribal poetry. Indian poetry, like Indian philosophy, has a long tradition of creative descent, as it has always been alert to its surroundings and has worked like a counterculture against diverse forms of cultural hegemony. This traditional begins with folk and tribal poetry, where the people speak about their different origins, subvert status quo, myths, and raise their voices against the masters who deny them their rights. We also have folk and tribal epics that are parallel to the mainstream epics, at times taking themes from Ramayana and Mahabharata and giving them new, often subaltern interpretation or celebrating folk heroes. It is mentioned by IIS website while they were calling for papers on tribal and folk, conference on tribal and folk. This comment actually represents or takes the very essence of Indian literature. Indian literature is primarily oral in nature. If we see the history of birth of modern Indian languages, we can observe the literature produced in modern Indian languages are actually from the oral tradition. The myths, the themes, the plots, all these things mainly were adopted from the oral tradition, like the Ramayana stories, the Mahabharata, and not only the translation of Valmiki's Ramayana or Vedavyasa's Mahabharata, but these are adaptations of the Rama Katha or the Krishna Katha or the stories of Mahabharata, which are already there in oral tradition, in folk tradition, in tribal tradition since the centuries. So the basic or the main ethos of Indian literature lies in the oral tradition or oral culture. Until now, if we would like to read the greater history of creative expression of the greater communities in India, we can find that in the oral tradition and in other forms of artistic production of different folk or marginal communities of India, because their art and their expressions are most uninterrupted creation what holds their history and the greater history of the communities. The one of the most significant thing in folk and tribal aesthetic is the art of storytelling. In terms of storytelling, the Kalamkari painted cloth tries to provide a religious or historical narrative, often in the form of panels with or without a dominant central figure. The use of black outlines, blue and ochre, and a colored backdrop with voluptuous figuration adds to its distinctiveness. Narratives from anecdotes in their lives as well as the 10 incarnations of Vishnu are illustrated live in lively manner using strong outlines in lamp black reminiscent of Southeast Asian decorative tradition in Patachitra of Odisha and West Bengal. Although an art by itself, the designers have used it as a craft for lampshades, utility boxes, and the like. Centered around the lore of Radha and Krishna, it can range from their images and motifs to more complicated anecdotes from their mythological narratives. For example, I can talk about the worldly painting, what I mentioned earlier, that worldly painting is actually narrating the story of the worldly life. If we see the Patachitra of Bengal, we can understand that each and every pata is actually a story or a narrative poem or kind of epic. They paint the stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata, they paint the stories of famous Mangal Kavyas of Bengal, the stories of Manasa, Chandi, Dharma Thakura, etc. So, the art of storytelling is expressed is represented in folk art form in high merit. It is the creation of very high merit. History of tribal people in India. Histories of tribal peoples in India have been struggling continuously to respond to the increasingly complex present day predicaments of peoples so described. If the task of history is to speak empathetically from conceptions of the past to the human condition in the present, this task is extremely fraught in the case of tribal peoples. They are mostly invisible in the statist archives and are definitionally the constitutive other of historical temporality and politics. Ethnography, history's mirror twine, in its post-foundational avatar, has thus emerged as a critical site from which to challenge the protocols of history, which do not admit terms from the life worlds of the tribal peoples as legitimate grounds from where to write histories. The field of anthropological history has provided a hopeful and exciting site from where to popularize the practices of writing about tribal past. Now let us talk about some of the recurring geometric motifs in Indian folk paintings. One is Bindu or dot, the energy center of the cosmos, the seed of creation from which arise all forms, the seat of three gods, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, etc. Trikon or triangle. From Bindu emerges the triangle, symbolic of three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, the three dimensions of time, past, present, and future, the feminine and the masculine principles, and it symbolizes Shiva when facing upward. In reverse position, it is Shakti. Then is Chaturbuja or Chatushkon or quadrangle. Symbol of order, stability, the expansion of Bindu stabilizes in the square, the time moves within the square, etc. Now is Chauka. It is one of the basic square designs in folk painting drawn with the help of a dot, swastika square and a triangle. Bindu is at center of Chauka, which develops into a swastika. Four lines in the form of a square encircle the swastika. At the outward corners of these lines are drawn four Purna Kumbhas or posts of auspiciousness. Now, Panchkon or pentagon, symbols of five elements. Those are earth, water, fire, air, and sky. Then is Shatkon or hexagram, union of feminine and masculine principles. In its highly evolved form, it appears at Sri Chakra and Yantra of Supreme Goddess in her creative aspect. It symbolizes the universe and its divine cause. Ashtakan or octagon, it is symbol of protection. Swastika or fourth direction, the movement of sun. In swastika reside all gods. Vrita or circle, circle depicts both space and time. In a mandala, it forms the cosmogram. Chakra, wheel, it symbolizes time and movement associated with Vishnu and Krishna as their disweapon. Vertical line symbolizes goddess. Lines are symbolic of movement and progression. Vertical line between two dots, Shiva. Wavy line is water. And Sarvottovadra is protection, auspiciousness, and four-faced temple. Beside these geometric designs, there are recurring images in these paintings are elephant, horse, bull, snake, fish, lotus, etc. Now, let us talk something about the urban adaptation of Indian folk art and how the Indian folk arts and different narratives and styles gave urban culture a new move, a new richness and new language of living, of protesting and of creating their voice. Kanika Sharma writes in Hindustan Times, Indian folk art is moving away from the epics and pastoral scenes towards contemporary themes that appeal to urban buyers. A tableau of the Nirbhaya rape in the unmistakable Potua style of West Bengal, an aircraft soaring alongside Hindu deities Shiva and Parvati, painted in the worldly art style from Maharashtra in a work titled Development. A girl child lying in the bloodied hands of women drawn in the intricate Madhubani art style of Bihar. There is a painting of such as example and you can observe it on the screen. Now, let us talk about the significance of the folk and tribal art and other creative expression. The first thing is that with this study of folk art, folk and tribal art and other creative expression, we can understand the aesthetic sense of the different communities of folk and tribal art and creative expressions. So, if we try to understand the sense of aesthetics, what lies in different marginal communities of India, we have to understand the folk and tribal art and cultural production. If we would like to write the greater history of India, beside the mainstream history of India, if we would like to write the alternative history of India, we have to understand, we have to read or we have to have survey of folk and tribal cultural productions and we have to know the aesthetics of that. This aesthetic study of folk and tribal creative and cultural production gives us new epistemology, new philosophical knowledge, and new methodology of writing history. It gives us a new theory of literature also, the theory of nativism, what is growing remarkable since 1980s as one of the anti-colonial theory is actually based on the different marginal communities of India, which includes different folk and tribal cultures, and from there we can find our own theory to read our literature, to understand our culture, to write the greater history of the communities of India. So that in this sense, that folk and tribal aesthetics have immense importance, immense significance in our academic discussion, in our academic study. Thank you.